Okay, picking up from our last look at Excel, we had the BMI page and we got conditional formatting to function there. We're going to kind of repeat the exercise now with our multiple choice and free response grader. To get started, I am going to zoom out just a smidge because actually seeing the numbers isn't that important here. And I'm going to expand this downward so we get down into some less good grades. I can also expand it sideways. I do want to capture that top column as well when I'm going sideways, so I don't have to worry about changing these guys. And so there we go. I've got grades starting at 100 here and going down well into the Fs. All right, so what you got to realize is we're going to do 5 different conditional formattings here: A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. I figure the A's we'll do is green with green background. B's will be, well, let's do B's with blue and blue background. C's can be yellow with yellow background. D's can be red with red background. And F's, I guess I'll do maybe with gray as their background. Hopefully you'll never get into the F range. As I said, the first step to do conditional formatting, always, 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 is highlight the entire range you want to apply your conditional formatting to. That way you're sure that it's going to be applied to all those cells, not just some random cell you're clicked on. Activate conditional formatting, highlight cells rules, greater than, and we're going to do greater than 89.5. Anything greater than 89.5 will be an A, and we'll put green fill with dark green text and say, okay. It didn't work. Well, you have to be asking yourself, what the heck is going on here? I intentionally made this error to illustrate 2 things. The first one is actually the bigger lesson, and that is, what do you do when you have a conditional formatting that you did that didn't work, that's wrong, that's broken in some way? And the problem is, it's not really evident when you're sitting here in Excel where your conditional formatting is. Like, how do you, where did it save that information? So, if you make an error with conditional formatting, all you really have to do is go up here to the conditional formatting, click the down arrow, and right here at the bottom there's Manage Rules. So that will allow you to manage the rules that do conditional formatting. Now I click on this and it appears that there are no rules applied to this, even though you saw me just make one. And there is actually one there. So here's the second thing about editing for conditional formatting. If you got an error with your conditional formatting, not only do you manage rules, but you need to change this to this worksheet. You want to look at every rule for every cell on the whole thing. See, the problem is that when I click this before, it defaults to current selection. So it's telling me what conditional formatting is applied to cell D1 here. Well, there isn't any. That's why this is empty. So if you got an error with conditional formatting, you need to go to conditional. Let me repeat it just so you can see that again. You have conditional formatting, manage rules, and then change this to this worksheet. If you do that, it shows you every one for the whole page. Now, the next thing you should do, and this is because of the kind of errors I've seen students make, is actually read this sort of left to right to left rather than left to right. Check to see what range is selected. The most common mistake I have when someone has conditional formatting not working properly is that they only applied it to part of the cell, the page, not the whole, not everything they needed to apply it to. And you read this reference here, C3, that's up here, C3, that's your top left one, and N37, so N and then all the way down to 37. So that's your top left and bottom right corners of that rectangle that it applies to. So my range is fine. My format is fine. It must be my formula that's off. So if you've got a bad one, there are 2 approaches. One you can do is you can just delete the rule. And that's actually what I usually recommend, that you just click it and you delete and start over. Because editing this, I'll show you what editing does if you go into here. Let's go to Edit Rule. It takes you into this, which we haven't seen before, and it's more complicated and you're learning a whole new thing. So you don't really want to edit. You're better off, find the rule that's not working and just delete it, click Apply and OK, and then go back and try again. So I'm going to highlight all of this again. And now I'm going to reveal to you why that did not work. Conditional formatting, highlight cells rules, greater than. Here's the deal. If you look at this, this says 60.5%. I typed in 89.5 and just hit enter. Well, 89.5 is actually, what, 8,950%. So you have to put the percent sign in here on this. Because we're looking at percents, you have to put in the percent sign. Now it should work fine, but of course I want to make sure my format is green fill with dark green text. I say OK, and if we scroll here, you can see it gives us a preview. It's working just fine. While I'm still highlighted here, I'm going to highlight cells rules, and I'm going to do between, and I'm going to say between 79.5% and 89.5%. And these are the B's. I want to make them a custom format. The fill I'll do as a light blue, and the font I'll do as a dark blue. And say OK. And those guys come in. I'm happy with that. While it's still selected, I'll do my third highlight cell rules. This time a little between. And this is the, let's see, these are the A's, B's. These are C's. So they'll be between 69.5%, which is the low end of C's, up to 79.5%, which is the low end of your B's. We'll make these yellow. Say OK. And then we'll do one more. Highlight cells rules between. And these will be between 59.5%, the lowest of the D's. And by the way, you could put in, here, let me see, this is 59 and 69.5%. You don't have to type it in as 69.5%. You could realize that's the same as 0.695. It's the exact same thing. Those we're going to want to be red. So we'll leave those as red, the D's, and say OK. And so now my A's, B's, C's, and D's are highlighted like that. Lastly, I want to highlight cells below, less than 59.5%. Now, this will do another custom thing for our F's. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the font, leave it as black, and the fill do like a gray. And say OK, and say OK again. And so if we click over here, we can see now that the sheet is formatted to show A's, B's, C's, and D's. And again, it all operates based on what value is calculated in here. So the conditional formatting is not changing the equation here or how that's calculated. That's an 82 because 33 and 8 out of 50 adds up to 82%. It's just, it reads the value that's calculated and uses that to set the format. If I had one that only had 32 multiple choice questions and 11 free response, you can see it calculates those, but it's highlighting all the ones that are 89.5 and above is green, and our B's and our C's and our D's and our F's. So very quick little lesson there on conditional formatting. What I'm going to do next in the next lesson is actually we're going to play around with doing some actual engineering analysis. See, up till now, Fibonacci, that's sort of just math. The multiple choice grader and free response grader things, those are just doing some calculations for teachers and grading. BMI, that's I guess biology or something. We haven't really done any engineering yet. So our next lesson, we're going to look into a very specific engineering problem. I sometimes call it the container problem. So it's going to be a problem involving how to optimize the dimensions of a cylinder, actually, with an open top on it, so that it holds the most volume for the amount of surface metal, whatever the can or cylinder is made out of. So look forward to that in the next lesson.